our frequency.
As you know, we're just kicking off a season of inspirational television, and we are dealing with Back to Love. But before I start, I want to make sure I stay true to who I am and what I do and what I'm up to. So I'm going to ask you, everybody here in the studio audience and you there in television, to take a deep breath. Come on and take a deep breath with me. Inhale and... Yeah, that felt good. I'm going to do another one. How about you? Come on, take another deep breath. And exhale. It is that breath that makes us family. God breathed the breath of life in us and we became a living soul. And that simply means that we're not no junk. That means we are created in the image and after the likeness of the creator of all life. And for that means you got purpose, you got destiny. And we're going to talk about that today because there's a lot going on in our world.
So much.
That's pushing us to believe that we do not have purpose, that we do not have a reason for being, and that our voice doesn't matter. So I'm going to do it one more time just because it felt real good and I need it. Take another deep breath. Inhale and... Yes, that felt good. So this is the second of a series we're doing titled Back to Love. Most time when we think about back to love, we think about some ooey gooey feeling, right? We think about that guy, that girl that made us feel good or didn't make us feel good or didn't give us back the love we thought we were supposed to have. But I want you to know, back to love, what we're talking about in the complexities of the world today, looking at love from the space of what are we committed to. I love to say, love is not about what you did for me and how you did for me, although that matters, but it's what are you committed to. So when it doesn't feel good, when it doesn't look good, when it doesn't look like the results that you anticipated are turning out right, what are you committed to? I'm committed to transformation. I'm committed to seeing you and anybody that's connected to me fulfill their dream, fulfill their dreams, the destiny, the purpose that's in their life. A few years ago, well, actually it was after 9/11, me and another young lady, we had an event called Back to Love. And it was bringing, bridging interfaith, bridging the gap between differing beliefs and differing from Protestant to Catholic to Jews to Muslims, bringing us together so that we could come to a common understanding and a common ground. Many times we think we're really different, but when we find out there's really not that different. There's not much difference in us at all. And if we can remember that the breath we have makes us family, whatever we think is different becomes common. All right, so today we have a special guest. You see me keep looking over there at her, that beautiful young lady right there. We have a special guest in our audience, Shelly Bruce, and I tell you, this is a dynamic, powerful woman, and we're going to be talking about Back to Love. We're going to be talking about her passion and how we can use our voice to make a difference in the climate of so much confusion, chaos, and all the junk and stuff that goes on. How we can make a difference even when we have a differing belief in some areas of our life. And so I want to welcome Shelly.
Thank you.
Welcome to being a part of a foundation of history in the making, honey.
Yes, I like to be part
and
of
if you didn't know, I enjoy doing what I do. So I like to have a lot of fun, even when we're talking about serious matters, right?
Absolutely.
So Shelly is a woman who has worked in the community. I met her just about 10 months ago, and she participated in our Empowerment Summit this year. And she's dynamic in the space that she comes from, because she comes from a genuine space of commitment.
Thank you.
You know, and I appreciate that. She's well educated. You know, we can read the dossier in terms of all that she has accomplished in the community and in the world. But what I love most about Shelly is her spirit. So Shelly, I thank you for being here with me.
Oh, thank you.
All
It's
right?
such a pleasure to be here
Thank
and share
you.
in this very important topic in this very important time where
Yes.
love and compassion and unity is so needed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you passionate about?
Yes.
Why do you do what you do?
Well, why I do what I do is the most important thing, and I thought about that on the way here, and I said, even from being in middle school, being in high school, I always felt like my upbringing, my beautiful family, but something in me was always about justice and integrity and truth, and I always wanted to know what was the best thing we could do, what was the right thing to do, and I got to express myself in many ways and was supported to do that now as an artist and a spoken word artist and community organizer. But I feel like my why is really about, what do people need? What does the world need? What does the community need? And what are the answers to the problems that we're always asking? And what are the solutions that we need? And I think all the tragedies we're experiencing are really opportunities for us. They are calls to action. And I think that's something that's just always led me. So just filling in whatever space I need to fill in.
That's awesome, because one of the things, this is a Christian network for those of you that are on here, but one of the things that the gift that God has given me is the ability to bring people together of differing beliefs. So you're not Christian.
Per se, I grew up in Los Angeles. I went to St. Paul's Lutheran Church all of my life, and I mean, I was in the womb there. I was born into this church, and I went on this journey. I think late into my 20s, when I graduated, I started to ask myself different questions. And although I think Christianity is such a powerful and beautiful space and way of being for so many people, and as it should be, I felt like it wasn't the specific way for me. And so I began to just ask myself different questions about what I felt was really true for me. But again, at the end of the day, I always know that no matter what space we're in, we are all seeking the best life that we can seek. We are seeking, what's the best way that we can serve people? What's the best way that we can love and be of a positive impact to our family and our community? And so everything that I do, it always feels like it doesn't matter what space I'm in, it fits. So I'm very grateful for that.
No, the reason I did that was because I want you to rub your forehead right now, and I want you to say, everything I think I know, I wanted to release it right now so I can open myself up to a new experience, meaning that I want to be able to hear what someone else has to say, because they can contribute. We contribute to each other. And remember, I started this off by saying Back to Love was brought together of interfaith, meaning different. Interfaith is a buzzword for differing beliefs, spiritual different beliefs, but we believe that it's only one creator of all life. Okay? And when I say that is, when we are able to come together on that common ground, we're able to see a difference in our community. I don't have to come together on what I don't believe. Didn't know that, huh? But I can come together on what we do believe. And what we do believe is what?
Love. Unity. Transformation.
Unity, transformation. Yes. Okay? And how we can make a difference in that. So tell us how you go about making that difference.
Oh my goodness, there's so many ways. I feel like one of the first things too is I always have such a gratitude for Christian communities, especially in Los Angeles, all over the world.
Yes.
When I think about the civil rights movements that inspired me when I was in college, and I was an African American Studies major, and I was learning about how we are able to have so many more rights as people of color. There's churches and faith that was so part of that. Even my upbringing and that core in me that always directed me towards doing the right thing. That came from being in a community, being in a family, being in a church home that taught me these values. And so I think. Again, that was just always this chord that was struck in within me all my life, and I think it started to translate into activism when I was in college, and I began to learn as an ethnic studies major about the various struggles of people of color, the different my heritage and what that really meant, and I just felt in my heart there's still so much work that needs to be done, and so that I started to learn within that space, and whether it was us doing marches on campus because they were raising fees or they want to cut a major, whether it was when I graduated, getting more involved in African American communities and finding out, about police brutality and what can we do. One of the things I was led to do, and mind you, I was an art major, I was an ethnic studies major, so there's a career path that's within that. But once I got into this community, I just filled myself into so many spaces. I worked with after school program that served young people of color, and a nonprofit. Then I started working in the prison. I started working in institutions for adult men and adult women and juvenile youth, and I was teaching art there. So I found myself in all these different spaces still using art, which is beautiful, because art and this talk about transformation fits in so many spaces. But then I also found myself in the fall or the winter of 2014, and there was a big movement called Millions March. There's Millions March NYC, there's Millions March DC in Chicago, and it was all about police brutality. And we're all so tired of seeing our sons and our daughters and our brothers and our sisters be affected by this. And so obviously the nation has been such an outcry. I mean, we've been in this outcry, but it's really come to the forefront and the highlight these last few years. And so these marches happened, and there was 60,000 people in New York and 80,000 people, and it was just this wave. And then a few of us in LA were like, where is the LA, Millions March LA? So a group of my friends from college, just a serendipitous group of us, about 40 of us got in that room for that first meeting, and we planned Millions March in LA. And within 2 weeks, I remember I spent my birthday, December 19th, at LAPD headquarters getting the permit for the protest. We shut down all of Wilshire, La Brea, and all around that area, and we had this march, and about 10,000 people showed up.
Wow.
And I had never really done anything specifically like that before. I had, been called to do other things, but the biggest thing was that something was needed to be done. There was a space, and we all said, where's Millions March LA? Where is the outcry? Where is this on the news where we really need to talk about it? And I filled in and I found where I need to go, and I just did what needed to be done. And I think that's really what just shows up for my life over and over. So now I've found that there's different ways. I feel like my purpose is asking me to serve to answer those questions. But it really was what the core of it is.
So I like that. The question is where where can I make a difference?
Yes.
Where is my voice? How can my voice, what can I do and give back to make a difference in the community? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, and sometimes it's not something so specific. I mean, I think every day at work, we get to honor our service workers, we get to honor our teachers, we get to honor so many people. Every person we walk and meet every day and their work is making a difference, because it's as simple as someone being kind to me on the other end of the customer service line or not, right? But again, it was also just saying, who's doing this? And one of those favorite phrases I think has come along my journey in studying self-care and self-empowerment is,
who's self-care, and self-empowerment, what does that mean?
So I'll answer that, but the question that came was, who's going to do it? It's you. You're going to do it. So who is the person to do it? It's you. And I feel like that theme has come up a lot in my journey. Self-care and self-empowerment. I think that's something I really want to talk about today that I think the world really needs is truly self-love. What is it to put yourself first? What is it to serve others? And whether it's in my romantic relationship or my family relationship or my work relationship, I found on my journey, and even kind of going through periods of depression when I graduated from college, even though I was educated, even though I had all these accolades and beautiful friends, was that I wasn't raised with that piece, that time management, that self-care piece. And so I realized that my mental health and my own self-care became so important. So, what does it mean to really truly love myself? And if I love myself and I take care of myself in the best way I can, not only am I showing others how to treat me and saying what I will and I won't accept, I'm also saying, if I'm full and I'm overflowing, I always have so much more to give. I always have so much more that I can do for other people. And so I found that when my cup was empty, I was working this job in the incarceration facility, and I was working this job after school program, and I was planning these art shows, and I was doing all these things, and then I was empty. I was run dry. And then I just always felt just this, I can't get enough done. I can't do this. And I had to just slow down, and I had to say, okay. And it sounds simple, but it really is a fundamental topic of, if I put myself first and nourish myself, then I have more time. Then I feel more nourished. I feel more generous, And sometimes we see in a lot of families, you have a single parent who's just working. Sometimes it's harder for them to take that joy if they're just so spread thin. So even if, no matter what, our background is, we have to find that time, whether it's exercise or meditation or prayer or, whatever, that is for you, we have to find that. And I think that's something that has, really led me to also talk about the things that I do within my artwork and within my community work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that was us. Let's give her a hand. That was awesome. Awesome. She was sharing. So what I have found, you said a lot, and I think this lies true to whomever you are and wherever you come from, that you have to take time out with self. And when I say self, I don't see self as something different as God somewhere out there about there, but self is my relationship with my God. And so when I take that time out and I rejuvenate and I allow myself to get fed and I allow myself to get centered so that I can be about the work that's set before, I think that's really awesome, because we can go until we are exhausted, and then we become the very thing that we don't want to become, angry, frustrated, and bitter. Right? And those are the things that produces what we see in our communities and in our world.
Yes, and I think as a young woman, I'm at 28, and as a young
Nah,
woman,
you're not 28.
I still consider myself a very young woman, and I'm still learning and growing. But one of the things when I talk to teenagers or just women peers my age, we are all, a lot of us are focused on relationships. And one of the things I learned as a young woman was, again, I was pouring myself out into my relationships, and then I was feeling empty, and then I started losing, what made me great, what made me me, what made my relationships work. And again, as women, we have to really understand what our priorities are. Are we taking care of our family? Are we taking care of our physical health? Are we taking care of our work? Are we taking care of our passions and the things that we're interested in? If you have those things really firmly set, then when your relationship comes into your life, you're able to weave that with your relationship. And on top of that, again, I was thinking about that again recently and realizing that when you kind of are burnt out and when you're pouring out, then again, like that spark, that passion, and even this year, it's something that I'm always learning, and as I add more onto my plate, I'm learning, and I thought to myself, this year I've had a really impactful year, but intense year, right, full of things, and I started to lose my passion. I started to lose my passion for painting. I started to lose my passion for poetry. I said, well, what is it? I was spread too thin, so I had to come back and make sure, okay, am I reading about artists? Am I going to those open mics and those events that inspire me? Am I filling myself so that again I'm nourished, and then I get the inspired thought? Because when I write my best poem or when I paint my best painting, I'm enjoying it. And not that we don't have to sometimes do the things that we must do. There are the truth that are important to do, that are requirements. But sometimes we also have to make sure that we remember our why and have passion with our why. And I think whether it's our work or whatever it is, if you remember why it's important and you take that time to appreciate it, you go into your work with so much more to give, with so much more, so many more ideas. And it's like, you know what? I can't just paint this painting. I'm going to take this painting and I'm going to make it about this cause, and then I'm going to donate a portion of it to this cause.
So that's how it translates then into making a difference in the community.
Yes, and also just translates into, when you're passionate about something, you have more ideas. When you're feeling full, when you're feeling nourished, when you're feeling at peace, I feel like there's more of a space for those inspired ideas to come that can even do more than they would have when you're from a limited space, when you're from a lacking space. So again, yes, I think I asked myself too, I feel called to paint, and I started painting at 13, and I did it in high school, and I majored in it in college, and I did it in the community through these open mic scene, and I said to myself, even though this is my passion, my gift, what more can I do? What is needed? And I found that my painting, there's a million people painting, but what if I use my painting as a vehicle? Because in my mind, the world needs more than ever for us to do as much as we possibly can. Our administration and our government is reflected by how many people are voting, and how many people are educated and informed about certain legislation, and how many people are supporting those community programs that need resources, or supporting those causes that are, making sure that certain rights are there for people. And so I said, everything I can do maybe can give a nod to that. So currently I'm working on an exhibit, it's called the Heaven Here series, and it's about, the good news, because I feel like there's so much bad news. Every time I went to go, there's some fires in Orange County today, I went to go, what's going on with that? Because it was near my job, and I found out, oh my gosh, there's all these other horrible things happening. I had to shut it down, right? And I said, we need more good news. And so I wanted to do a painting series that highlighted portraits of people who are really doing that great work. So you see this beautiful image, and you're drawn to this beautiful artwork, but at the same time, you'll go and you'll see the story of the person right next to it, and you're reminded that, this gives me some hope.
So I have a question
this gives me
for
some
you.
hope for the world.
That's awesome. I have a question. As you were talking, I was thinking, art is another sphere that we are to influence in terms of the kinds of art, because there's some art that's quite dark, and then there's some art that is not as dark. But I guess one of the things that one might say, with all that is going on in the world, art is a vehicle. It sounds like you're using art as as a vehicle to escape and not deal with what's going on. So how do you take that art and how is it now used to also be a voice? I know you said about the fundraising and giving it back to the community, but how is it now also a voice of healing?
I think it can kind of be a simultaneous thing. Again, you know, everyone has different purposes for what they're called to do. And so sometimes for some people, they might need to just paint just for them in their little space, and that makes them happy. But other people may feel like, you know what, there's more to this art. Nina Simone has a quote to the effect of, you know, what is an artist doing if they're not reflecting the times? And I thought about that a lot, and I think the thing that really drilled that in for me is being part of an open mic community. So the open mic scene in Southern California is something that's been growing all over the country for a long time, mostly focused on spoken word and poetry, which isn't how I found another aspect of expression. And in this open mic scene, you had all these people sharing their stories, whether they are a seasoned poet who'd been doing it for 10 years or a person who'd never gotten on the mic before. And at the end of every night of any open mic I've ever gone to, I always leave feeling so much more encouraged, so much more nourished, so much more whole. And I realize it's because people are taking this art, this creative way of saying something, and they're sharing their story. And they have an opportunity to also talk, to get on this mic, to get on this soapbox and talk about, you know, how they feel about the administration, how they feel about mental health, how they feel about what's going on with their family and the healing that they're doing. And so I found that, you know, open mics and poetry as a spoken word artist, that's a really big goal for me, is if I have this microphone, and when I taught in the prisons, I realized, you know, there's a lot of people in here who have stories and they don't get to tell them. You know, they don't have the privilege of even being free to go tell them. And I have this microphone, and there's 100 people or 1,000 people or 20 people who are listening to what I have to say. I could say something that can change them for the better. And you never know if it's that one thing that you say or you do, or that one smile you give someone that inspires them and encourages them. And so that's also kind of the inspiration too. I said, how can I do that with my paintings as well? But I really feel it's so important with the time that I have to do the work that heals myself, but sometimes some of the things that heal myself and nurture me also nurture other people and give them permission.
That's awesome. So one of what I'm hearing is for us is to remember that even in the Bible, David was a poet. Even in Psalms, Proverbs, that's all poetry. And even in, I believe it was, of course I can't call his name right now, but he says some of the biggest the biggest healings, the most that has happened is in Sunday morning, the artistic way we deliver our messages. It's poetry. So for those of you who are wondering how being a poet, how being artistic is going to make a difference, is the willingness to allow yourself. We don't always see that is what we're doing, but we're being very poetic. We're being very artistic in how we deliver, and it's healing. It's something about the rhythm of what we're saying and doing that penetrates. I don't care who you are and where you are. That's why music is so healing. It's because it goes, it's a vibe, right? It's an energy, and it goes and it heals. And so I want to thank you for sharing, you know, your gift of art, your gift of poetry, your gift of how you use that to minister to the community and how it is transforming. I know you work with young people and you work with those that deal with depression, and it's all in the realm of art. And so, and I appreciate that. That is what we do in our services. Is artistic. When we give our testimonies, when we sing, and we have spoken word, that's what we're doing. We are sharing our gifts, our talents in a way to penetrate and to give healing. And so when people leave our presence, they're like, I feel pretty good right now. You know, something has lifted up off of me. I've had that moment to even get clear about what it is I need to do and how I need to go about a situation or a problem that may be in our life, in our homes, right? So I want to thank you for that. We have just a little bit of time left, and I'm gonna give you you know what? I'm trying to get this thing together here, y'all.
You got it all the way together.
Y'all gonna have to work with me. She has a beautiful book here called The Rebirth, and if you go to my website, irisinspires.com, I'll have information there available for you to get her poetry book. And then, of course, you know, you got my books, Breathe, Not This Time. They told me to make sure I talk about them, so I'm telling you, Breathe, Not This Time, Dream Big, Dream Catcher, and You Again. all available on irisinspires.com, irisinspires.com. So, but before I want you to share a little bit of your poetry before we leave out of here. And while she's doing that, because probably what will happen is we'll go off the air. I want you to know you're always in the right place at the right time to get exactly what you need, to do exactly what you need to do in this world. You have purpose, you have destiny, and everything that you've been for has been set up for you to use your voice to make a difference in our world. God bless you.
Thank you. And one thing I really want to add is along my journey, I really came up with this idea that turn your ugly into art.
That one.
Turn your ugly into art and tell your story, because you're not only saying I made it through this thing and I survived this thing, but you're turning into something beautiful that can teach others. So I wrote this piece. It's called Light Seed, and it was a piece I wrote for this year that I knew was going to be a tumultuous political year, and I hope I affirm that it continues to inspire folks to do a little bit more and to understand how powerful they are as individuals. If I have a little time, there's a story of an Indian man. In his community in India, there was a drought and everything was a desert and all the trees died. But he said, you know what? We need these trees again. So every day for 30 years he planted a seed, and he planted a seed and he grew this bamboo. Now it's a forest, and the lions came back and the tigers came back and the elephants came back. So that's the power of planting one seed. So this piece is Light Seed.
Okay, awesome.
It was time to be raised from the dead. So I became the full moon at midnight, the only light in darkness. You lost, so my skies kissed your mornings. Now earth can never be severed from me. You famished. My soul tree carries forest to feed all mouths of starving. You forgot home. I sun blinding gold, tsunami wave and tornado blue, and you again worshipped Orisha. Then they, rubber bullets go crack our heart. So we, veteran herd, halt all pollutant pipeline planning. The press blade nears wrist vein. I, the very breath that pushed suicide away. They noose, brutalize, hang, incarcerate, and murder our fathers. My brown rhythm will haunt them in every beautiful song they'll ever sing. Apocalypse becomes hopeless mind of the masses. I am the one who knocks them awake. As if our clothes weren't sewn by, as if our imported clothes weren't sold by child slaves. As if rainforest not burned to stinking ash and sewage dumped in our oceans so steak could be $5 for our eating. As if murderous men in a spiritual coma had not built this perceived debt we call democracy. As if I had an option to be anything but a love army. I'm the only one who survived, with a million stories scribed in native tongue behind my eye. As if I could possibly remain this small. As if I had time to be contained by vessel. As if measureless me might muster the words I can't. As if ancestors didn't strive and survive so that we could be. We occupy indigenous soil. Nos sentamos en tierras indígenas. And these people have often said, they tried to bury us, but forgot we were seeds. A sister of mine reminds, all you must do is believe. And we built everything on this. Thought to word to action. Life is action. Life is a dare at how legendary you could be. So, I became the full moon at midnight. It is time to be raised from the dead. For any darkness can be canceled by one light seed. Ashe. Thank you.
All right. Beautiful. Awesome. Remember that you are cause in the matter, that your voice makes a difference, that you are in the right place at the right time, that your destiny is to live in the fulfillment of God, that thing that God has placed in you. It's not by accident. You have heard today that whatever your gifts and talents are, whatever the desires of your hearts are, whatever is weighing heavy on you, turn that around and let that be the light in the world, in a dark world that needs to hear your voice. God bless you. And we will see you on next time. Don't forget to check us out at irisinspires.com. God bless you.